Little did I know that after a long day at work, I would find myself engaged in a conversation with my father-in-law. My wife and I had recently got married and were temporarily living with her parents. So far, our 2 years of marriage had been a happy one. Patricia's parents were ordinary people. Her father worked in a factory, and her mother was an accountant in a firm. When I entered the house, my father-in-law greeted me and said he wanted to have a serious talk, man to man. We settled down in the kitchen, and he brought out a bottle of whiskey. We had a few drinks each, discussing work, family, and other topics. However, I couldn't understand what this serious conversation was about. Eventually, he looked at me and said, "Stephen, I have a lot to share with you, man to man. I appreciate your trust, and I believe that everything that is said here will stay between us. I have been having an affair with another woman for the past 5 months. I've been visiting her periodically. I spend an hour or two with her during the day, and in the evening I tell my wife that I am away on business at the factory. However, my wife constantly calls me and interrupts our time together to avoid suspicion. I need to keep her busy so that she does not notice my absence. The only solution I can think of is to involve you. It's a win-win for both of us. My wife won't suspect a thing, and you'll have something to keep you busy. Not that I'm angry or jealous, but I've noticed you look at her as more than just a mother-in-law, so you're willing to spend time with her while I'm away." I paused, searching for the right words. Yes, that's exactly what he suggested. You got that right. Don't worry, I won't make any demands, and I'll support you. She'll be delighted because she's an attractive woman despite her 50 years. In my 55, I can't satisfy her desires and desire for a mistress. You don't have to come up with anything complicated. Just find a moment when she's in the shower and surprise her by going in there, maybe even naked. I haven't decided yet. Just come up with something. Hopefully, when the time comes, you'll be there for her and do it right. Judging by the screams coming from your bedroom at night, it sounds like you know what to do. Trust me, once you start, she won't be able to resist. Try it tomorrow. I won't be home from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. She usually gets home from work at 4:30. Hopefully 2 hours will be enough time for the first time. To be honest, I was up most of the night. First of all, I pondered what my father-in-law had said. He always seemed to be the paragon of marital fidelity. Second, my mother-in-law kept occupying my thoughts. How do I start? What should I do? I must not offend her, and I must present myself in the best possible way. What should I call her? Afterwards, Helen. I actually liked her, and my father-in-law was right. I often admired her. I've never been with an older woman before. I'm 28, and she's 50. She's not overweight, but she's not thin. She's got a good figure, a tantalizing woman. I didn't have any particular thoughts and fell asleep. By morning the next day, I arrived home from work at 5 o'clock in the evening. To my surprise, my mother-in-law was already there with a towel wrapped around her head, indicating that she had just finished showering. She was wearing a robe and greeted me warmly. She mentioned that dinner was cooking on the stove and headed into the bathroom to do the laundry. Curiosity got the best of me, and I peeked into the bathroom and saw her leaning over the tub, washing something. At that moment, I thought it was the perfect opportunity to make a move since, due to the circumstances, she wouldn't resist. I quickly undressed and quietly entered the bathroom, approaching her from behind. After considering the consequences, I gathered my courage and got down to business. Surprisingly, there was no outrage. The mother-in-law didn't seem to immediately realize what had happened, so I continued on. Eventually, we moved to the bedroom, where our acquaintance continued. Our first intimacy lasted about half an hour. "Thank you for the pleasure," she said. "Honestly, I didn't expect this from you, but I'm pleasantly surprised and pleased with what happened. I've missed having a husband for the past 6 months, and I think I found a good life partner in you." She sat down on my bed and kissed me. After that first hot encounter with my mother-in-law, I was tormented by guilt. No matter how much my body enjoyed it, my conscience screamed that I had betrayed my wife and her trust. For the next few days, I awkwardly avoided being alone with Helen, but I could feel her eyes on me full of hunger and anticipation for round 2. Soon, my father-in-law cornered me, wanting to know how things were going with Helen. He greeted me, at which point I reluctantly admitted that we'd had intimacy and immediately began to pry for details. I shuddered at his curiosity about me sleeping with his wife. It didn't take long for Helen to tolerate my evasiveness. One afternoon, she showed up at my workplace wearing a raincoat with almost nothing underneath. Before I could object, she led me into the storeroom, and what all guys want to do when they're left in that situation happened. Our forbidden tryst continued for months. That encounter was incredible. I knew that if my wife ever found out, it would destroy our marriage. Finally, the guilt became too much. I told Helen that we had to end it for good. Grief-stricken, she tried desperately to change my mind, but to no avail. My father-in-law was furious when he found out. I'd been in love with her, wanted to stop distracting his wife, but I insisted on my own and decided to stop these adventures. To be honest, I myself am already tired of it all. We'll see what happens next.